every little movement and position makes a big difference on the hill. And I remember being in the air. I was probably in the air for like 5 seconds at this point, and I thought like, damn, this is enough time to read a book.
So is ski jumping as intense slash scary as it looks?
I would say that, yeah, it probably is that intense if you go and check it out in person. It's going to be, I think, even more extreme if you see it up close than what you see on TV. For example, one of my friends who watched it live for the first time said, it's like, oh my God, I didn't realize how fast you guys were going. Like you see the speed on TV, like they'll display it, but it doesn't register until you're standing in front of it and watching someone fly by you.
When we talk about ski jumping, you go down the hill and you jump. But as you lead up to it, as you're in the air, as you land, like what are you really trying to do?
The sport overall, extremely technical. I don't know if people know that or not, but like every little movement and position makes a big difference on the hill with your distance. So you want to set the position nice and low, really balanced over your feet, hopefully maintaining that position. And then when you get to the end of the takeoff and it's time to jump, you want to push down against the ground as hard as you can with only your legs. You don't want to be moving your upper body or swing your arms around or all these unnecessary movements. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's a very simple thing to do. And that's how you lead the takeoff. And if you do it correctly, your legs extend, your body flattens out, and then you get in the air and you will be flat over your skis in that nice aerodynamic position where you're keeping speed, you're creating surface area so that you can generate lift underneath you. And that will hopefully carry you as far down the hill as you can get.
Is the lip of the jump, is that flat? Does it kind of launch you a little bit? Or like...
No, it's actually angled down.
It's angled down?
Yeah, it's angled down. So if it looks like it's launching us, that's just us doing our job right. But it's not every ski jump is identical, but you're going to have around an 11-degree angle downward.
So then once you get in the air, are you just trying to, why do you do the position that you do? Like what's the point of doing that?
To get that gliding effect, you want to create as much surface area as possible. Think of like those wingsuit guys. You know, they'll pull out their arms and legs and have that material there, and the more surface area you have, the more lift that's going to generate. So we put our skis into a V shape because that maximizes the surface area around our body, and we're lying flat with our hands by our side, basically just trying to be a sail and catch the air, which is why a headwind, even though you might think that that's going against your speed, a headwind is going to be more pressure underneath your skis and your body, and that's going to, in turn, help you create that lift.
Is there anything kind of special about the landing, or are you like, no, man, at this point, you're just landing it?
It's hard to describe. You just kind of pull your feet together, and then suddenly you're upright. Like, it's not something you really have to put a whole lot of effort in. But when you are competing, style is a part of the sport. And so if you want maximum style points, you have to land in what's called a telemark landing. That's 1 foot in front of the other. So that's something you have to consciously think about when you land, is how do I make this landing as good looking as possible so that the judges will like it.
Let's just say out of 10 attempts, like how many of those would you say, oh, I got that exactly right?
1. Well, it depends how you're jumping, but to have a absolutely perfect ski jump is not easy to do.
I guess what about you makes you good at it? Are you just exceptionally physically gifted? Are you really good technically? Like, why are you good at it?
So, early on, a lot of it is like how ballsy you are. Like obviously some timid little kid is not going to succeed in a sport that's, hucking yourself off of humongous jumps. So that's like a very important thing early on. And then as you get to like the 40 meter, the 70 meter, and it starts to become more technical, then your understanding of the sport and like being able to learn technique and stuff, that starts to become more important. And then by the time you are like a teenager, like 15, 16, then body type comes into play too. So it is a sport where weight makes a huge difference. So you do need to be thin. That's kind of a requirement. They're both tall guys and short guys that do really well and win World Cups, that get Olympic medals. The common thing among them all is that they're really thin and that they're really strong.
How condition dependent is it in the sense that, okay, you can be just as good as somebody else, but for whatever reason, when they're jumping, they just got the right wind?
Wind is huge. Wind is very big. It can make all the difference. And to kind of even that out and make it more fair, they started putting wind readers on the side of the hill, and they have this formula to calculate a certain amount of points that you get added or deducted to your jump based on the direction of the wind and the strength of the wind. So it evens it out a bit more, which is nice. It's not perfect. Even though you get points taken away for headwind, you still want headwind because it's still better to have that.
This kind of gets into some of our listener submitted questions. So are you ready for some listener submitted questions?
Yeah, of course.
Can you back off a ski jump? Like once you start going down, can you just say, no?
No, once you get off that bar, you're in it. So you better give it hell, or otherwise, like here's the thing, if you are a pussy at the end of the jump, it's going to be dangerous. It's going to be bad. You might crash. You might have a sketchy jump. Like you might as well just go for it.
What's with all the cheating scandals all of a sudden?
I think there's been kind of a history of people in the sport bending the rules and trying to like see how much they can get away with. And if there's not been someone there to enforce it, then they just kind of keep pushing it. And there's kind of been this unfair bias that like the bigger and better countries get away with more. And I think it got to a point where a lot of the different competitors and countries, especially like the smaller countries, got fed up with it and started making like a bigger and bigger deal about it. And they have just recently gotten stricter about it. They finally started like enforcing the rules stricter. And, then when you do that, you start finding stuff. It definitely did some damage. That part sucks, but it forced the sport to make some big changes. And I think that this year, everybody is being treated fairly and equally across all teams. And, no one is above the law, it seems like, anymore. So,
and for people who aren't familiar with the ski jumping scandals that we're talking about, some coaches and athletes were suspended after it was found that they were altering the crotch area of their suits. And now there's talk that some athletes were also injecting things into their private areas to make that region bigger. So why would that even help to inject something in that area?
So I'm sure the people are thinking that, they're injecting this before they go up and jump. That's not what it would be. So a big thing in ski jumping is our suits, because, the bigger a suit, the more surface area you have, it can make a big difference in how far you go. So we have certain measurements that we get at the beginning of each season that are these hard measurements that we have to use when we make our suits. Some of these hard measurements include your height, your arm length, and then your crotch length. So what they will do, they used to have this little like mechanism that would come up and like measure where your crotch was, and then that would be like your crotch length. But there were people trying to manipulate that. You'd stuff in your underwear and try to get like a lower crotch measurement. Therefore, you could have a lower crotch on your suit and have more material there, and it makes a huge difference in flying. So what they have since moved to is a body scan, and you do it in your underwear, and they've actually gone as far as to have a doctor there to make sure that you have no prosthetics on or nothing like glued to you to try and get like a lower measurement. So the whole conspiracy is that people have been like injecting things into them so that it artificially for a little bit makes their crotch lower, so that when they would get this scan, their measurement that is good for the entire season would be lower than what it really is, so that they could have a bigger suit all season.
I get like the importance and that this is people's lives and their careers, but there's also kind of a hilariousness to it. Like,
oh, absolutely.
People are doing what? Right? It's. I mean, was this a known thing before this kind of came out?
When I heard about it, I laughed. Like, that's such an outrageous thing to do. That's really like taking it to the extreme. And I can't imagine it would make that much of a difference. Like maybe you get an extra centimeter or two, which, is nice to have, but it's not making or breaking your season.
Could you do this with a snowboard?
I don't think you could. I mean, you could find someone to go off a ski jump probably, but they wouldn't go very, very far.
Is it just not built for that, or like this? Because I snowboard. I mean, I snowboard the greens. Let me be more clear about that, right? Like, and if it's an easy blue, maybe I'll do it. But you just couldn't do it because, yeah, why couldn't you do it? It's just not set up that way, or they're just something fundamentally about the snowboard wouldn't let you.
I think both. I'll go through it all. Why I think it couldn't work. Technically, yes, you could get off and go down a steep hill and then jump as hard as you could on a snowboard. You'll probably go 20 meters, which, could be cool if you're doing it. I don't know if it'd be exciting to watch, but the track is made for skis, but let's pretend that's not there.
Right. Let's pretend it's set up so that you can do it. Right.
Yes. So, like you said, you snowboard the blues and greens. How often do you catch an edge?
If I was better, probably all the time.
The way that you jump, you'd have to almost jump sideways. You're not getting a lot of force. It's not a lot of like efficient energy that you're taking with you. It's a lot of wasted energy. So you're not getting the same kind of lift off the end of that takeoff. And then your feet are strapped in and you have to, I would assume you're just leaning sideways. So then you're not really creating a whole lot of surface area. And then your feet are also planted on the board. With our jumping skis, our boots lift up a little bit from the ski.
Countries where this is the biggest, like, oh man, those Norwegians, they love ski jumping.
Poland probably has the most dedicated fan base. They love ski jumping, diehard fans.
Man, I'm Polish, and that maybe explains some of why it's just in our blood. It's just in our blood. We love ski jumping, man.
I would put Slovenia up there too. It's almost like their national sport.
Is there any particular reason, or that's just what they like?
Slovenia, I would say that soccer is definitely not bigger. Ski jumping is one of the biggest sports there. It's a very small country. It's in the mountains, like at the edge of the Alps. And they just have like a big history of ski jumping in that country. The biggest ski jump in the world is there. and they have so many kids that try it. They have like the most ski jumps per capita in the world. So I think it's just something that everyone knows about. It's just like ingrained in the culture.
Ooh, let's do, I got one serious one and one funnier one.
Okay.
Most intrusive thought you've had while sailing through the air.
I remember when I was younger and I was watching a ski flying video with my dad. And do you know what ski flying is?
I think so, right? Like it's got a parachute, like they go off. Maybe I have no.
No. Ski flying is ski jumping, but basically on jumps that are twice the size of the Olympic jumps.
Super extreme. Like you've gone
like massive jumps. Yeah. So, Olympic jump is like 120 meter. These ski flying jumps are 200 meters. So I was, when I was a little kid, I was watching like one of these ski flying videos with my dad. We were watching like the world record and counting out that it was 10 seconds of airtime. And he was like, holy shit, like that's enough time to read a book. So I remember, it wasn't my first time ski flying, but it was, it was a while ago, like earlier days of when I started ski flying. And I remember being in the air. And I was probably in the air for like 5 seconds at this point, and I thought like, damn, this is enough time to read a book.
Because you know how people are, right? Like any chance your brain gets for some downtime, be like, I think the light's on. What do you think is the future?
If we do well, the better we do as the U.S. team, I think the more notoriety that the sport gets in America, because it's not super well known in America. You go to some of these events in Europe and you'll have stadiums with tens of thousands of people watching these events, millions of views every weekend on TV. It's a big deal. And it's not like that back home. And, I understand it never will be. It won't be like going to an NFL game, but it could be a thing people at least know about. Right now, I think ski jumping is almost viewed as like a circus act. Like once every 4 years, it's like, oh yeah, those guys, that's crazy. And then they forget about it. But, this is like a sport that we do every year. There's like a big professional circuit that goes on. And I think it's a really cool thing. And I would love if more people had some exposure to that and got to know it better. And, maybe it could be something that they'd be able to follow if they got into it. So I think that would be really cool. I think one of the ways of getting there is for our guys to get better results. And, we've definitely been making strides in that. I can promise you the team going to Milan is stronger than the team that went to Beijing. We, as a country, have gotten better at this sport in the last 4 years. So, I want to be a good ambassador for the sport. I want to help it grow. I want to help it get more recognized. I think that would be really cool.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Profoundly Pointless. From society and sexuality to science and sports, every week we explore something new from a side of life you may never have heard of. Subscribe if you're interested. There's a playlist, I think, on the right if you want to see more videos like this. Someday I'm going to finish painting that wall. And just for the record, I'm not orange. I just don't know how to fix this. But thanks for checking out the show. Would love to hear from you. Okay, I should stop. Stop. There it is.